What the hell is
Folks,
going on in the
we
chat room?
are live. Mike doesn't realize it yet, but we are live. Welcome to Talking Crit. If you want some gaming stupid, we're going to be stupid this week. Mike's on vacation, and he's not driving. He's not driving, folks.
No,
he's not.
oh my God. Yeah, let's not bury the lead. I'm actually in a set location. And let me tell you something, Eric and Jim, I know you're going to freak out, but I'm going to tell you this. This condo has exceptional internet. Exceptional.
When you upgrade to a 4K camera versus your potato cam, I'll start listening to you.
I have not had one single drop from the computer yet, or my Xbox, or Netflix, or Prime, or anything. I can't believe a condo in South Padre has better. Well, no, I can believe it has better internet than my house, because I think my house is run by a piece of string that connects very carefully to an aluminum can, and on the other end there's a lead can, and so I think that's might be why the internet's so good here. But yeah, this is the best internet I've ever had on a vacation. So yes, no.
Mike's on vacation. I'm on hard drugs. This is going to be a great show.
Oh, beautiful.
We're going to be rocking and rolling. Yes,
I can try to catch up, Jim. I can try to catch up to you. I've got a bottle of Mexican tramadol in the kitchen.
I had my surgery last Thursday on my knee, and it has just been a fun-filled week. I tell you what. So,
do you ever forget? You ever forget? And you bend down because you forgot, and you're like, yeah. Or do you not forget?
Yeah.
Bob, I think Mike is. I don't think he's lagging so much as his video cam. His computer cam can't keep up with his sharp and flashy movements.
He's using like a 2007 IBM ThinkPad. That's the problem.
I will have you know that it's a 2010 ThinkPad, Jim. So I don't appreciate that.
It has the little red dot in the center, so he doesn't have to have a mouse.
Oh God, I was about to say
that. This will catch on. It did not catch on.
Everybody will love it, right in the middle of the no.
Wow.
God.
So we got a lot to talk about tonight. We got 2 hours worth of great stuff to talk about tonight.
Oh my God, Mike already has a topic that he's itching to talk about.
I just want to know if we're going to talk about it, because I talk about Joe the lawyer and his shock jock video shit that he's trying to pull this week, and Joe had a reply. Right? Joe Block had a reply. You had a reply. Well, yeah, it is, and I'm going to explain why it's dumb, and why better than this. Why Joe the lawyer is better than this. I assume he's better than that. Maybe he's not, but
no, he's not.
He should be better than this, because it's like the most juvenile argument I've ever heard anybody make, except I'll talk about it when we talk about it, or we can just start talking about it.
We can talk about it. We can talk. There's no set.
Oh please.
So Eric actually replied to this, and Eric, I'm sorry, I did not. I watched Joe's reply, and I did not watch yours. I don't know why, because Joe's the elder statesman here. You're just a you're a shock jock
in the middle. I'm the monkey in the middle. I got you. It's okay.
But so maybe you can tell us your opinion, because Joe the lawyer had a shock jock video this week about why he hates hex crawls and mega dungeons, which are two. I mean, I think they're kind of tent poles of the OSR in a lot of ways. I mean, I enjoy both, and I've run a successful hex crawl, and I've run a successful mega dungeon. The mega dungeon was Undermountain, and we ran a campaign for 2.5 years, gained every week. We had at one point, I think we had 30 something active players. They weren't all at the table at the same time. It was whoever shows up, bring your character, which is, I think, the best way to do a mega dungeon. Just whoever shows up, bring your character, you're going to roll.
If it's going well, people will make the time to be there for the mega dungeon. Yes.
And then
if it's not going well, you get your two friends, and one of them is probably
the same guy who would have shown up anyway for snacks. Yes. And I've run a successful hex crawl doing that, which I will admit the hex crawl was challenging. I did not do a Western marches because I don't like the style of the marches. where mainly you have to end up back in town after every session. That was added because once again, when they ran that like I were on a mega dungeon. Whoever shows up every week is in it, and if you have somebody out in the wilderness and they show up the next week, and Bob shows up over here and he won't, you got to figure out a way to bring them both together. So the Western Marches traditionally said everybody needs to end back in the city. And by the way, another tenet of that was adventures never happen in the city. You leave the city, nothing happens in the city or anything in the city. I happen encounters and city adventures, so mine was not a pure Western Marches. But we had I had both of them. So Joe's criticism, I'm watching, I'm like, well, I want to know what he says about it. So being Joe, Joe sprinkled in with numerous curse words. You guys know Joe. He threw in there that basically he had a bad experience with both a hex crawl and a mega dungeon. And I'm like, that's the same as me saying, I'm never going to date a redhead again because I had a horrible, relationship with a redhead. And so the redheads are out and they're no good. And and you need to get, if you have a redhead, dump her too, because redheads are no good. And I'm like, that's his reason he didn't like hex crawls and mega dungeons. He had a bad experience. I mean, what if you had a bad experience running Temple of Elemental? Is that that doesn't make Temple of Elemental a bad dungeon? It just means you had a lousy dungeon master that did a lousy job. So Eric, is that what you got, or was I not?
Actually, I sound a lot like you when I did my video, because listen, I understand where Joe is coming from. You have to remember, I was in the Joe campaign for 2E by the book with 20 plus pages of house rules. And it lasted about 2 years. And it was fun, but Joe's lawyerness comes into play. Joe needs structure. Joe needs to know, as a DM, where everything is going, where the party is going. He doesn't feel necessarily comfortable being an improv DM. I prefer that. So even when he does outdoor adventuring, it's a bit more of a tether or a leash than a hex crawl. So as a player, Joe, I tried running DCC for Joe like back when it came out, like over a decade ago. And we lasted 2 sessions because the moment he got spellcasting and then didn't know what the spells were going to do, because DCC is wacky. And we were done. And you got to read your players. I could read my player, and I was like, this is not going to be well. So
and I mean, I'll jump in real quick. I think one of the problems that people have with DCC, right? So Joe is a structure guy. Like when you tell me he's got 20 pages of house rules, I'm sorry. Like, I was
just going to bring that up, Jim. Yes,
I mean, my eyebrow went up over my head just because there's a couple of house rules.
Jim, let me explain to you. Those 20 pages of house rules is only because as the campaign went on, he shrunk the font.
Whatever. But if you need that kind of structure, DCC is not for you, my friend.
No.
Because DCC is not about, I'm going to take this character and I'm going to get it to level 18 and this is going to be a great mythic journey. It's, holy shit, here's my 6 starter characters. I wonder if any of them are going to be alive at the end of the first adventure. Like, if there is any RPG that embodies chaos theory, it's DCC. And if you have to have that kind of structure, if you have to have that kind of, that was Mike's relationship with a redhead all over again.
You're right. Well, in my favor, she did have what is it? Something personality disorder. So that probably wasn't just because she was a redhead. There was other factors at work here, but disassociated personality disorder, which is really bad. In case you don't know, but I was young and in college. I thought it was a bonus. I didn't know. Didn't know.
You thought it was a feature, not a bug.
Yeah,
That's the
feature.
problem.
Yeah.
I like the crazy.
Yeah.
Everybody likes the crazy. It's
crazy
living with
in
the
head,
crazy. That's the problem.
crazy in the.
Yeah.
Careful.
Yeah. We're just rated PG. We're rated PG.
Listen,
God.
all I will say is when you're dating a woman.
So back to 20 pages of house rules.
Yes, Jim, you're right, because I should have thought about that when I was thinking, why is this man so upset about chaos? And then I should have gone back to, he has 20 pages. You don't know how long my house rules, maybe page and a half, and it's pretty basic. How you rolling a crit, hit point, max hit points at first level, yada yada, just a few things like that. I don't go into any great detail because you figure it out at the table. You figure it out at the table. You find out what's going on at the table, and then you see what works.
And house rules come from the guy running the games, the person running the game's perception that something is broken, or this is like these horrific warning signs, right? We've all seen the memes where there's like, do not insert this object rectally. And you think to yourself, what happened that you had to put this warning on this object? Like, I don't want to know, but I know that there's a reason for that specific scenario to be spelled out in legalese. And so, like, did he have a player that, show me on the Greyhawk doll where the player touched you badly? Because that's where a lot of this stuff comes from. And that's fine. Again, his world, not mine.
Right.
And again, that's okay, right? I think hex crawls are a classic. I mean, if you do a hex crawl with it's all random, right? We're just going to go from random tables, right? Matt Finch's book has come to me in a beam of light, and I'm simply going to random it out. I'm sure if you've got a great GM who can wing it and can improv, it'll be great. But if you're a structure guy, this just causes you to break out into hives, and you're not going to like it. And Mega Dungeons, that's another side of the coin. Mega Dungeons, in theory, it's all populated. But again, no plan survives contact with the party. No game survives contact with the party. It never works out that way.
I mean, you could run a traditional, you could say every time we're going to show up, we're going to run a traditional, dungeon crawl. And we're going to have, the first week's going to be U1, next week's going to be C1, this, that. And you're still going to have curveballs, aren't you? You're going to have curveballs. The players are going to they're going to go through U1 and they're going to fight the lizardman on the ship. They're going to say, hey, we've got a ship now. We don't want to go to U2. We want to just jump on the ship. We're pirates now. We got a ship. And you were like, okay.
Great.
And if you're a DM that can think on your feet, you're like, this is awesome. We got some island hopping going. If you're a crappy DM and you try to railroad them and no, you can't. It's sinking. There's a hole with the water line that you guys didn't know. You do something stupid. So I'm mostly.
But let's be clear. None of us are saying that Joe the Lawyer is a bad game master. That's not the point.
It was a fun campaign with Joe.
But everybody has a style. Everybody has what their sweet spot is. Everybody has things that they're comfortable about doing. And I can certainly see, just based on the anecdotal stuff, why it may not have been a good match. Again, I'm gonna. So Mike is dealing with camera stuff. Let me throw out that I learned nothing. I learned nothing because I dated a redhead and then I married a different one. I learned nothing, nothing at all. So I'm just going to. I'm playing the home game. Mike passed. Some of us.
I would just use an example. Somebody that may have had a bad experience with A. And use that to extrapolate all experiences with A are terrible. And I'm just saying the way Joe's story went, he had a bad experience with Mega Dungeons. So yeah, he probably doesn't like Mega Dungeons, but that doesn't mean he has to go on a rant about why Mega Dungeons are terrible in hex crawls also, especially when one of his good friends, Rob Conley, is the master of hex crawls and just made some absolutely masterful hex crawls in his Points of Light, 2 books, and his Black Marsh. I mean,
okay. Yeah, he's got his $5 worth. He's in the chat. He knows you got the $5 worth out. You're good.
But here's the other thing. we have a 3-way collab. The other member of our weekly collab is Joe Block, right? Castle of the Mad Archmage, Katma. I mean, did you expect Joe not to respond to Joe? I mean, and a different Joe. If anybody's watching at home and doesn't know, Joe the lawyer, Joe Block, the Greyhawk Grognard, they are different people. Okay.
And by the way, I just accidentally pimped your show, Eric. So I just send the $5 through PayPal afterwards.
There you go.
The great,
but it was like a gauntlet being thrown to the ground, right? I mean, it kind of was. I don't know if it was shock jockey. It was.
I just come on. Everybody wakes up some days and gets on a high horse, right? Everybody wakes up someday and is like, "I'm going to tilt at this windmill today." And when your friends do it, you very patiently listen and you let them get it out of their system. And then a few days later, you're like, man, if you tell me any more about Gallipoli, I'm going to have to just tie you down for a while because I think it's cool. And the movie with Mel Gibson was amazing. But I got a 2-hour dissertation on Gallipoli the other day and I didn't wake up asking for it. And I'm your friend and I listened, but we're done. No more. And like the last thing the OSR needs is some sort of bizarre East Coast, West Coast rap battle.
Maybe that's exactly what we need. That might be exactly what the OSR hobby needs is East Coast, but West Coast, we need like a Tupac over here and this could be cool.
I am not assigning roles and I am staying away from that, right? Everybody has their sweet spot. Everybody likes what they like. I can understand, right? So I'm gonna go back to the redhead thing for just a second.
Oh no!
So my son's best friend that he spent the last few years in high school with was dating a redhead in his senior year of high school, and somewhere around the house I had the redheads encyclopedia with all the world's little weird facts about redheads and the fact that they feel pain differently, blah 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 blah. So he was over at the house one day and I said, so I understand that you're hunting the world's most dangerous game. Here, let me give you the guide. And he was like, what? And then he sees it and he reads it and he's like, oh. I was like, there you go. And so years later, he still talks about like he took it and he read it. And as things in that relationship ended up exploding and going sideways and so on and so forth, he was just like, it was all in the book. It was all in the book.
So I think I'm going to put I think Joe the Lawyer's Tupac and I think Joe Block is Notorious B.I.G. So we're going to yeah, he's Biggie.
Damn.
And so
who's Dre? That's what I want to know. Who's Dre?
I hope there's no bloodshed, but these things can get out of hand at conventions
very quickly.
Where East and West Coast meet, and then it can get really ugly.
God! The next thing you know, somebody's going to be throwing jelly donuts at one another at a con, and it's all going to go sideways. That's it. That's it. Bodies are going to hit the floor at Page once the flipping sprinkled donuts start going through the air.
So Eric, what was your? I'm sorry, I missed when Jim and I were yakking there. What was your opinion of this Joe the Lawyer piece of?
I understand where Joe is coming from, knowing Joe for over a decade, having just experienced a 2-year campaign with Joe. I understand his perspective. It doesn't mean I have to agree with it. I don't agree with it. I think that a mega dungeon, especially something like Barrow Maze, you can cut the pieces anyway. But and Castle of the Mad Archmage, you got to be ready for a funhouse dungeon. If you don't want a funhouse, you're not going to have fun in Katma. But you have to know your group, know your wheelhouse. I think sandboxes are a lot of fun, but I like to improv. So I feel comfortable doing it. If you need structure, like Jim pointed out, it's going to put you into defensive panic mode when... And I'm not saying like that Joe is somebody who puts you on rails, but, because Joe didn't, but he had arcing storylines that he was hoping would get addressed. And as a player, I'm just like, I'm here for the moment. World shaking.
Yeah, but there's a whole school of thought that, this is the old school of thought, I guess, guys, is that the players write the story, right? The DM is supposed to just see where the story goes, and he facilitates. The players are the ones actually writing the story. That way there's no railroad involved. They're deciding that here's what we want to do. DM present us with what we want to do, and the DM says, okay, cool, I'm rising to the challenge. I will present you with what you want, and I'm going to test my DM chops, because you're going to be throwing me a curveball every once in a while, just like the afore described U1 curveball. That's your first adventure. You got this whole adventure built around Salt Marsh, and you run. I'm sorry. Okay, 50-year-old spoilers here. Sorry if you haven't played U1, but if you haven't, I have no sympathy for you at this point. But U1, the first part of it takes place in a haunted house. The second part takes place on a ship outside with lizardmen and pirates. And after that, you're supposed to wander off in another direction. So let's say I got this. We're going to do it. And the aforementioned example I gave, the players find themselves like, we killed everybody on the ship. We've got a ship here. Let's hire a captain and go island hopping. That is the players telling their story and saying, this is the story we want to be told. And the DM is supposed to, accommodate them. So, okay, this is cool. I mean, I may have to just I have the campaign written, what we're going to do, but okay, well, let's just go ahead and let's island hop. That thing's awesome, And so that's the way I look at it, is I just don't understand. I guess I like doing that as a DM. I like improv.
Right.
I like
but now,
curveballs.
Remember, I don't know if, last week's collab was basically random encounters, yay and nay. And I already knew what Joe the Lawyer was going to place, because Joe doesn't do, quote, random encounters. He's got to have things planned out, and they may be random where they get placed, but they've already been figured out. And I like the idea, the DM, of, all right, I got a challenge here. How is this going to fit? I got 2 minutes to do it, and go. Because to me, it makes the game alive.
Mm-hmm.
As a DM, I'm not telling a story. I am facilitating. My God, I'm using Rachel's words. I am facilitating an experience. I am allowing a story to develop with the help of my players. That's how
Tell us more about
this. Yeah, no, I'm not going to be this social worker.
But okay, so let me tell you one of the best sessions we ever had. Party I ran many years ago. They were guarding a caravan, and I was rolling random encounters as they crossed this large kind of frozen wilderness. There was mountains there and forests and stuff. And I rolled one of the encounters I rolled. It was, I can't remember what book I used. It just gave you like little ideas. It said there's a door in the side of the mountain. That was it. That's all I had. I'm like, okay. So they're guarding the caravan. The caravan stops for the night, and then they find this door. And then, okay, we're going to investigate the door. So I kind of did like a little Gates of Moria thing where they had to solve this problem to get in. So they get in. None of this was written. I mean, I'm just riffing, but I do it with confidence. And so they ended up in this mage's old lair. There was skeletons in there. There was a bunch of flying daggers. He enchanted these daggers, and that's where his guardians, so they're fighting these flying daggers and flying swords. Obviously, there could be nothing alive in there because they've been sealed up for like a couple hundred years. And they go there, and they finally find the tomb of the wizard, and they fight his, I can't remember, he might have been a wight or a wraith or something. And we go through this whole thing, and there's puzzles and this and that. And after they get through, they said, that was so cool. Where did you find that adventure from? Where was it from Dungeon Magazine? Was it? I said, no, I made it up. They said, there's no way, dude. We appreciate your skills as a DM, but you didn't make that up, okay? I mean, Mike, you're a really good DM, so you could just let us know where no, I'm saying I just made that up as it went along. They just couldn't believe it. They said, that's one of the best sessions we ever had. They said, you need to publish that. You need to write that up and publish it. So, of course, I'm taking no notes the whole time. I'm like, I don't know.
Of course. Oh,
so, no. I'm just working on stuff. But the point is, they had a great time with it. Just an absolutely totally random session that was spawned by one sentence. There's a door in the mountain. Which is odd anyway, because they're in this wilderness and there's this door there. Like, what is your door doing here? And so that led to the whole thing. And they were excited because they thought this was some kind of planned encounter. I just had to say, look, this is just a random. But that's what makes DMing fun, is that you can do things like that. And believe me, I was testing my chops. I was like, I don't know what's next. What's in a tomb? Skeletons, obviously, flying swords. There's, traps. Oh, God, there's got to be traps in here. All kinds of stuff like that. And so undead. Oh, wait, they're oozes. Oozes could be in here. They're not alive. They just ooze around and do whatever oozes
Right,
do.
they can last forever.
Yeah, a mimic. Oh, the mimic's he's been here a long time and he's really old. And they loved the mimic because he was really old and he tried to bite him and he couldn't really. He's like, I haven't eaten in like 100 years, and so they made friends with him. They gave him rations. That's a good idea.
Joe wants to come in, but Joe wants to come in.
Oh God. Okay. Well, sure. I'm ready for Joe.
But I think you nailed it though. I think one of the things that you said is also at the heart of the problem, right? Which is sometimes you have game masters who are control freaks. I've created the perfect setting. I've created this perfect adventure, et cetera, and so forth. And again, it doesn't survive contact with the party because the party just blows it up and takes it in an entirely different direction. If you let them, you just have to be willing to let them. So I'm waiting for the thunderous typhoon of Joe.
We spoke the devil's name, and the devil doth appear.
Yeah.
Before us, I assume.
So Bob G has a good point because I am OCD, and it took me a long time to get in the habit of telling players yes. And going along the path that
understandable, especially with younger. I find younger DMs have a lot of problems with improv, which I understand. I mean, they plan something. It's all planned out, and if the players take a left turn, they're like, "Well, this is what I have planned." It's. I think the more experience. Obviously, we've been doing this. Everybody here for 40 years or so. It's we can handle it. But yeah, if you're a younger DM, I can see why that'd be a definite problem. Is having to improv stuff out because you are nervous anyway. When we went to Long Con, there was a guy running a game there. He's a kid. I know his mom, and he was there. And I see him every year at Long Con. Really, really sweet family. And he had created a game where you basically play anthropomorphic dogs, kind of like Buddies and Burrows, except it was called ARF. The game's called ARF, which I thought was cute. Anyway, he made it up, and so they play dogs and they go on missions. And he was very nervous because I guess I play this. I said, well, first of all, you got to realize that I was giving him fatherly DM advice. Your players don't know what's supposed to happen. Anything that happens, they're not going to know if it's planned or not. Just go with the flow. Whatever happens, just keep going with the flow. Keep going with the flow. And so anyway, he had a great time. He ran 3 sessions of the game, and he thanked me later for my advice, which really was really no advice. Just do what you want to do is the advice. But people like Joe the Lawyer, you would have figured that they've been doing this a while. They might know their, ass from a hole in the ground, and they'd be able to improv a little bit. And
why? Here's the question.
I didn't even see you pop in.
Here's the question. Here's the question, guys. How come everybody assumes that massive prep means you can't improv or don't like to improv or anything else? Because as I've been saying for the past 3 years on all my shows, when I talk about all my 12 hours of prep for 3 hours of a game, that helps me improv better because you're able to do so much more in-depth, verisimilitude style world immersion for your players. If you know the last 3 generations in that bar who fucked each other at the last fall festival. You see what I'm saying? That to me gives me the power to improv in a much more deep, immersive way.
Time out. So I don't disagree with you at all. I have always said to people running a game, you need to put about 3 hours of prep time into every hour of the game you're going to run.
I agree.
100%. Totally agree with that. My top secret game, I put more prep into that than I probably should have, but it let us swing a lot of things on the fly and so on and so forth. I think the crux of what we're talking about, or where the conversation has morphed, right? We started off talking about your position on hex crawls and your position on, I don't know, were you watching?
I saw most of it. I was fast forwarding on like 1.75 speed to get through the main points, and I got to just the way you were saying.
So we were talking about your position on hex crawls and mega dungeons, and it comes down to I think it really comes down to we've now sort of pulled some bits and pieces out that have moved far away from you specifically.
Oh yeah.
And we're talking about how there are certain game masters who have not, for lack of a better word, I hate it, but grokked. They haven't grokked the idea that you have to let the players are not an agent of chaos there to destroy your world. Your players are there and you're supposed to facilitate their adventure.
Yeah.
And you can overplan. You can try to hold the players to a path that literally just turns into railroading. You need a sort of balance in between of I'm prepared, But in the end, I'm also ready to just go completely off the rails and do wherever it takes us, because that's going to make a better story later on.
Yeah. And in my last campaign, how it ended after like 4.5 years, the players damn near destroyed the world, quite literally. They were a few rolls away from everything ending. You know what I mean? It was percentages it came down to. So I'm totally on board with that. I love
Joe,
the world development.
But Joe, what I did was I compared. I understand. Look. If you don't like Mega Dungeons and Hex Crawls, I'm not here to beat you down and tell you you have to like them. But I'm saying, to me, it's the same. It's the same thing as saying I once dated a redhead that was crazy, and so ergo all redheads are crazy. I'll never get a redhead.
I love crazy redheads.
You had some bad experiences. You had some bad experiences with Mega Dungeons and Hex Crawls. Does that? I mean, that doesn't mean they're all bad, right? It just means that
I never said. Remember, I never said at any point they were all bad. I said why I'm never going to run them again, and I laid out the reasons I don't like them. Other people could like them. You like Bar Mage, you like Temple. Joe Block made the great Funhouse dungeon. Buy the damn dungeon. I have it on it's right there on my shelf. You know what I mean? So buy that shit. But for me, they're not fun because in the comments, because like a couple hundred comments, I was able to sort of elucidate a more, I don't know, refined position. The best analogy I came up with in the comments was it's like a treadmill. You walk on a treadmill for an hour. I say walk because we're all old. None of us can run on a fucking treadmill, right? You walk on a treadmill for an hour. You got sweat, you got pain, you burned off some calories, but when you step off it, you're the same fucking place you started. When it's like, I don't want to jump into a hole, come out, do a few things, jump into a hole, come out, do a few things, jump into a different hole to go to the same place, come out, do a few. I want to explore the whole fucking world. I want to see everything. I want to do everything. I want my players to as well. Right.
But a Mega Dungeon can be a tent pole for your campaign. It doesn't have to be every adventure happens there. It can just be there. It can be there. I mean, it doesn't have to. I mean, like you said, that's a bad DM. That's a railroad DM that makes you go in the hole every time.
It's not even a railroad. It's as if they have nothing else ready, nothing else prepared. You know what I mean? That's terrible. I mean, that's not a game I want to play in. You're playing Rob's game. You go anywhere the fuck you want. You jump in the hole, jump into the city. It doesn't matter. Rob is ready because he knows cities. He knows, the Judges Guild setting like the back of his hand, right? He knows all of it. Plus, he knows his own now. And so that's perfect if you could do all that. But even if you have all the things that Eric and Joe were talking about in the Mega Dungeon, which I've talked about too, factions and the place replenishes itself and interaction with the outside world, how they live and how they survive, I just don't like them. You know what I'm saying? I just don't like them, period.
Well, I mean,
and I've had plenty of experiences running.
That's a personal like or dislike. I understand.
Yeah. And I mean, I got wrapped.
I don't like planar adventures. I don't like anything going to the plains. I will never do a planar adventure. It just doesn't interest me. I don't like psionics. I'll never have psionics in my game. I know there's a fantasy. There is fantasy with psionics. I just happen to not enjoy psionics. I think the sonic rolls suck. It's like Gary pulled it out of, everything's from this shelf, and he pulled a book out of this shelf over here. And here's kind of like the Bard. Why does the Bard have to?
Makes no sense.
So I feel this. I understand what you're saying. So you're not saying that somebody couldn't run it well. You're just saying it's not something you want to mess with.
I'm saying even if they ran it well, and keep in mind, I played in Joe Block's at ShireCon. He ran his Mega Dungeon under his system at ShireCon, and I played it, and I enjoyed myself for a few hours. It was a fun time, even with his weird ass keeping track of initiative according to Gary's way of doing initiative with speed and everything else. I'm like, oh my God, you're doing initiative and speed and everything else built into there. My God, you're a maniac. But he did it well. I had a thorough good time. But at the same time, I couldn't see myself doing this, even with all the bells and whistles that Joe Block can bring to the game. I'd find myself after a couple of months saying, can we go somewhere else now? Could we go to Greyhawk? Could we never go back to this place again? I want nothing to do with this tent pole. I want many tent poles. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that
you go ahead, Jim.
I think, going back just a smidge, I think you've absolutely nailed the problem of a lot of TSR settings, right? So let's talk about Dark Sun, Planescape, Ravenloft. These are fine to dip your toe in and have like an arc for a few months, maybe a longer period than that. but it's the very notion that you're going to spend 5 or 6 years as a campaign in Dark Sun or in a campaign in Ravenloft or whatever, that really and truly, like, I get why you want to sort of throw the players a curveball and drop them in wherever, just to throw them off their game. You know, if they're getting a little comfortable and they're a little contrite, you know, putting them somewhere where they're not prepared for the types of monsters they're going to encounter. And, oh, by the way, you can't fireball everything, et cetera, et cetera. I love that as a notion. I do. I genuinely think that's great. And the best part of Planescape is you drop a party from Greyhawk, like they open the wrong door and they wander out into Sigil, and then they're like, where the hell am I?
The hell's going on here with a type demon walking down the street?
What is all of this? And you don't tell them. You let them, you know, the best transitions are the ones where you don't tell them what you're about to do to them. You let them start picking the pieces and figure out that, you know, oh, we've somehow transitioned to Gan World, or we're on the Starship Warden, or, oh my God, why is there no water and everybody's got loincloths and nobody has swords, right? Like,
and Gary and Rob did that tons back in the day when they had the Castle Greyhawk and El Raja K. They you know, you walk through a door and you're in the Old West. You walk through a door and you're in, they love to do that. They enjoyed putting their players in uncomfortable positions where suddenly your Staff of the Magi is just a useless toothpick and doesn't do anything. So that. But I was going to say, Joe, you got my example, the U1 example. So let's say you have a camp. So Joe the Lawyer, you have a campaign. You decide this is going to be a classic campaign. It's going to take place in Saltmarsh. We're going to run U1, and I got all these things got to be prepared. And then at the end of U1, they decide they're going to take the ship and they're going to sail off and do island hopping. Do you just go, okay, well, this is our new campaign, or do you go, no, I had this whole campaign plan. We can't do this. No, this.
No, I don't care about that. I they can do whatever the hell they want. They can go where they want. I just put it this way: I would never ever run anything like Isle of Dread or Isle of the Ape again in my life. That filling in the blanks hex crawl bullshit. I don't mind a point crawl. I don't mind going through the woods and taking detours, but you're going through the woods to get from point A to point B. You can take all the fucking detours you want. You can make a left, make a right, turn a left at Albuquerque, like Bugs Bunny said. Whatever you want to do, you know what I mean. But I will never run something where you explore something in every nitty gritty, every crack and crevice of the place. I won't. That's not something I want to run ever, because I know I'd be bored to shit running it and or playing it. And so I can't give a good game like that. Like, I know my limitations. I couldn't run Rappanathic, a campaign for 5 years, because I would hate it, because I want creatively to expand a world. I love world building. Anything that maybe that may be the real root of this. I love world building, and I love when players explore my world. So I don't want to lock them into a village in a mega dungeon forever. You know what I mean? I like the big world story, the epic tale that the arc.
So what if Rob Conley's running the hex crawl, and Rob Conley is the master of the hex crawl, and he says, "I'm running hex crawl." Are you in? Or are you just like, no, Rob, sorry, I'm out. I'm not gonna.
Rob's hex crawls. I mean, I ran in one recently, and we started off in a city state of Invincible Overlord, and then we shifted over into that was sort of the focus of my character. And we got out of the city, and Greg's character is a Viking guy trying to reclaim his heritage, took over, and that became an island hop. And quite honestly, on a long ship, hopping across the world to meet with people and do various things. I was totally on board. I completely lost the train of it, because Rob got so complex, I couldn't fucking follow anymore. And I said, oh, thank God it's off of me from the city. Now it's on Greg. I don't have to pay as much attention. But we all kind of lost track of what the hell was going on a little bit. But I was on. Yeah, that's fun. I wanted to explore his world, see what he does.
So I'm seeing some Isle of Dread comments, and I want to say, I don't think that X1 in its first form is the best version of Isle of Dread. To me, the best version of Isle of Dread is what Paizo did in Dungeon Magazine over 4 issues. And I think the great part about Isle of Dread is that if you have a bunch of people who haven't played role-playing games before, it's a great setting that you can let them sort of get their chops and get their first 3 or 4 or 5 levels and understand how the game plays and so on and so forth before they transition to something else. Because as a world, as a smaller world, to sort of figure out how to play the game and so on and so forth, it's a great setting. it's not a campaign. It's not a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year. It's just nice and compact.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd never seen that, but that'd be cool. I mean, it seems different.
Yes,
I just don't want to.
it's much more fleshed out. It's got, it plays a lot like an old Origins RPG.
Mhm.
It plays a lot like not Ultima, but like a smaller version where you go here for this, you go here for that, you go here for this. This causes this to happen, and so on and so forth. And it plays a lot more like that.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool. I
Yeah.
mean, it sounds like you can't do it worse than Isle of Dread for my money.
No,
it was
no.
just terrible. It was just terrible. And I mean, granted, we played it when we were young. We were teenagers, right? Because of
Right.
but I never revisited it. I'll tell you that much. There's other ones
I never went back.
I never went back. I never reskinned it. I never revisited that entire style of play.
Right.
And
I
when
think
you look at domain
I had a
play
lot
too,
of fun with Isle of Dread, but I think also that's another one that it was in the expert box set. So a lot of people running it weren't that experienced as DMs, obviously, because nobody was at the time. All of us only had 4 or 5 years. But I think coming back to it, I think you can make, like Jim said, the Paizo version is really cool because it hits all the high points, yet has all a lot of the other parts too. I've run groups through Isle of Dread that we've had year-long campaigns. They loved it. They love the idea of just exploring and not knowing what they're going to find. Because these were modern players who had never read the original version. They didn't know there was dinosaurs on the island. They're going to chop their eat their heads off. They didn't know there was cannibals. I mean, they didn't know anything. So they're just like, let's go ahead and go out in the jungle and just see what's in the jungle. That would be a tough one to run as a new DM, and I think a lot of kids did have problems with that. Back
I mean, we had random tables, and we went hex to hex, right? I mean, we had no idea of how else it was supposed to be run. Me, at least, I'd never been to a con or played with other people other than a couple, so I had no other experience other than what they had. So it's a limited thing. But I think the common denominator, I got to bump out in a couple of minutes. I just wanted to jump in and talk a little bit. But I think the common denominator of my position is I never want to be stuck in one place, neither as a player nor a DM. That's why I like it when they say, I'm going to hang a left at Albuquerque. I'm like, cool. I got that because I've developed my world so well that I know what's in Albuquerque, right? I never want to be stuck. I don't want one temple. I want 10. I don't want, I would love to, feel free to explore the forest, just not for 5 months, for fuck's sake. You know what I mean?
Not everybody's a druid, buddy. Not everybody's a druid.
What's that?
I'm not entirely, I understand your point of view. I don't agree with it, Joe, but I do understand.
Yeah.
So
and I knew it would be, I wasn't doing a shock jock on purpose. It was just me. That's how I feel. Because it came about from a conversation my brother and I had at a bar a couple of days before. I'm like, that's a good fucking video topic. I jotted that shit down because, he'd run recently Temple. And I'm like, he said, I'm never going to do it again either. It's just, you want it more. You want more to the campaign. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. That's cool, man. So anyway, thank you guys for having me on. I just wanted to, just touch base a little bit. Do you have any other questions for me? Bump out of here? Or anything? No. All right. Hope
I got to say though, I mean, it was a hot topic.
I know. I'm still getting ridiculous views on this video. It's kind of nuts. I'm
getting a lot of
Rob Conley wants
to
go Notorious B.I.G. on your ass, though. He told me. So.
Oh God, bring him in. I do have to bump out.
He's going to ambush you. He wants to.
I gotta have Rob come in and yak away, and whatever anything Rob says that's against me. Remember, he's wrong, and everything.
Wow.
Else is
Okay.
Right. So that's kind of
looks like there's some East Coast, West Coast here. Ooh, I see some.
Well, I'm East Coast. He's like woods. He lives in the fucking woods.
Oh,
he's Ted Kaczynski.
This could get ugly.
Ugly. All right. Well, I'll see.
All right, Joe.
I'll look in the background while you run around and do shit here.
Thanks for popping on, guys. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Take it easy, guys. Bye-bye.
Great. And Joe is still wrong.
Oh,
somebody. And Joe's still wrong. He's still wrong. Okay, I appreciate that explanation, Joe. He was less vitriolic there than he was in his video.
Well, it didn't have to be. He got the views. No, I didn't say that. Shall I ask Rob to
bring on the king of the hex crawl? Yes, bring on Rob for a sec. We gave Joe his 15 minutes of fame. We can give Rob his 15 minutes of whatever he needs to do to reply to Joe. Although Joe wasn't too controversial there. I understand where he was coming from. I don't agree with it. And I think I could make a hex crawl fun for him. I think I could make a
you guys are ignoring the fact that Alan Hammock blew up in our comments of being against psionics.
Oh, I'm
sorry. That's the most noteworthy.
No, because Alan and I feel the same way. Let Alan tell you about Sonic someday, and understand where that
No,
came from, because
no.
it's. Oh, here we go. Is this is West Coast? We had East Coast. We had Biggie. Now we got
Or
two.
at least the west coast of Pennsylvania, yes.
Yeah.
Hey guys.
Hey Rob.
Hey,
So you heard Joe there, and I understand where he was coming from. I don't agree with it. Why is he wrong or right, or it doesn't matter?
Well, I think Eric pointed this out in his rebuttal, is that the mega dungeon is a setting just as like any other, maybe more of a regional setting, not like well, some people would consider it a complete setting, but people forget that the mega dungeon is a setting, and you have to treat it like a setting. So if the mega dungeon is boring, that means your setting is boring. Now, not accounting if assuming that most of the players feel that way. Some tastes vary, but it's a setting
Mhm.
comprised of mazes with rooms filled with monsters, treasures, and traps stacked on top of each other. I could put out a hex map with a bunch of, villages and layers and stuff, but that in itself is not sufficient. I have to make it an interesting place that people want to visit at their character and have adventures in. The same with the mega dungeon, you have to make it an interesting place in its own right. And so I think that's the picture that Joe is missing. As far as hex crawls go, I'm not a fan. I mean, I'm glad people support the West March style of play, but I find it constraints too stifling.
I
I
agree.
mean, there's no town adventures in town. You have to be back in town and before the session is over, and all of this just, in my view, distorts the player's behavior from doing what they want to do in the first place. And so West March is, it's a very approachable setting. A lot of people had success with it, but ultimately, I think its appeal is limited because once you get tired of that cycle over and over again, I mean, you
Now
want to do
the
other
West
things.
Marches reminds me of your Baptist preacher, trying to run a D&D game. Well, you can have fun, but here's how you have to have fun. And it's I remember reading about that, going, well, I like the idea, but I don't like this. I don't like that. I don't like that. Nope, you have to do it like this. If you don't do it exact like this, you are not running a West Marches style campaign. I'm like, what's
Now,
I mean, come on.
here's what Joe probably doesn't remember, but it is not a not talking bad about him, but it just exemplifies. So in the city state campaign that he talked about, the players decided they wanted to venture in city state, and for a long time, I would say 2/3 of the campaign was in city state. Now, during that time, they had two opportunities to do something different. First, they got a lead in outside of the city state of the Invincible Overlord. There is the orc-infested forest of Darthwood, and during the early part of the campaign, they got a map to lead some treasure to a ruined elven temple. Because in my version of in my Majestic Waterland, Darthwood used to be the Elven Kingdom of Silverwood. So there's ruins there that could be you can find elven treasure, elven lore, elven magic, and they went there, adventured there, and they could have followed up on that, but they elected not to. They elected to return back to city state and pursue the stuff they had going on there. So that's a choice. So that they could have done kind of like a hex crawl-ish, maybe not Westmarch style, but a hex crawl exploring the forest of Darthwood. But the group, and Joe was kind of like he wanted to get pushing the group to get back to the city in a natural way, but they ultimately decided to go back to city. Then later on, there's this in city state. There's this there are fortifications along the wall, and on the southeast corner there's this big castle keep called the Wizard's Keep. And in my city state, that is the home of Llewellyn the Blue, the court wizard to the Invincible Overlord. At least that was the case 15 years ago when the original Invincible Overlord, the one described in the book, Judges Guild book, was still ruler. But I ran City State 20 years later, and now the Overlord is a completely different person, and Llewellyn the Blue is no longer occupies the Wizard's Keep. He was on the losing end of a civil war that saw the present Overlord come to power, but being who he was, a powerful mage, they haven't been able to clear out his tower. So it remains open for a venture. And I decided that I was going to use Gabberluck's Castle Exilian as a stand-in for the Wizard's Keep. I tweaked it a bit to make it fit rather than an isolated estate. I made it into that Wizard's Keep. So, but that's a mega dungeon, a light mega dungeon, but still, it's a big place that you can spend many, many sessions to explore. So the party went in there, but two things happened. First of all, they went in there, explored the outer courtyard, went into the building, opened up this closet, found a werewolf in the closet, had some drama about it, and one of the other party members was able to get the party out of fighting the werewolf because they felt that the werewolf fight would be get out of hand quickly because of they don't think they could have taken on a werewolf, and they didn't have any silver weapon, and I think they had one magic sword, and so in hindsight, when that whole situation was resolved, they went, we just went in here and we already encountered this. Do we really want to go in here with all this other stuff we got? I mean, Greg's Viking guy, he wanted to fight in the arena, and they had some stuff going on with that. And they said, yeah, we're going to leave this another day, even if we get back to it. So they turned away from exploring a mega dungeon. And again, Joe was an important part of that decision making process. And the other thing that happened is the whole reason there was a party member could calm down the werewolf because the party found out that character was a member of an assassin's cult, that worship the blood goddess Callus, and werewolves in my world are part of that cult. They have a blood curse on them that's given so they're minions of Kala, one of the minions of Kala. So the character who is the cultist of Kala's was able to talk the werewolf down into not attacking the party, but the rest of the party was not having any of it from him. They thought, oh my God, he's going to kill us in our sleep, but luckily the character had a ring of invisibility, and he popped that fucker on and just got the hell out of Dodge. He was okay with how it went, but he made a new character for the next session.
All right, Jim. No.
I feel like I've just gotten the Encyclopedia Britannica light notes on Rob's campaign.
She just showed you how everything can become everything, and it could.
I only took 5 minutes, so what are you complaining about?
Let me tell you about my character.
I felt like we were getting a little bit. Let me tell you about my campaign, which I am prone to do myself. I'm prone to do that. Dang it! Is that what I said? Is that what I sound like, Rob?
Anyway. So, Joe, has a bias against mega dungeons and hex crawl, and even though it wasn't as bombastic as he made it out in his video, when he had the opportunity. For the group had the opportunity to go on those types of ventures, he put his 2 cents in, and it was, no, let's not do this. Let's do this other stuff that we got going on.
All right. Well, thank you for that important perspective on why Joe is so messed up now. Because no, I'm just kidding.
Are you
Joe's messed up?
Me?
Joe's messed up because Joe's messed up. No. I after hearing Joe's less vitrolic explanation, less crack baby explanation there. I think that I understand him a little better with that. So
I'm sorry,
So
but I'm still trying to get over anybody in the East Coast, West Coast rap battle of the OSR. Anybody who suggests that Snoop Dogg is anybody but Tim Kask is out of their flipping minds. I'm sorry, but that's like a no-brainer.
well, if the bong fits, then
The
wear
bong
it.
fits, wear it.
The
I'm
bong
just
fits.
saying.
The bong definitely fits when it comes to. Tim's not going to disagree with anything we're saying right now.
No, Tim would be like,
He's not having a problem with this. Believe me.
Well, I
damn
mean,
right.
obviously I'm biased because look, I'm actually been working on this tonight. My Majestic Fantasy stuff.
Is Black Marsh still or not?
Oh yeah, Black Marsh is.
Oh, this is why I thought I recognized that black. That yep, I did recognize.
Yeah, but it's been greatly expanded, so that's my recent Kickstarter.
It looks gorgeous. That's going to be great.
And I'm happy to announce all the edits are done. Still waiting on my second Argonist to get done.
I'm going to kidnap Joe and tie him to a chair, and I'm going to run Black Marsh for him over a period of several weeks of captivity.
Okay, so Huck Ragnar says he thought Humpty Hump was Tim Kask.
I have no clue who the hell.
These are white people talking about rap music, and it shows.
This is the worst rap conversation of all time ever.
Oh my god!
Ever.
It's old man rap conversation.
Four old white guys talking rap is just that's a recipe. That's a recipe for
Three
disaster.
white guys talking rap. I don't know shit about it, and I don't presume to know shit about it.
Do
And
we
if
look
they
like we
like
know
it-
anything about it? I mean, I just know I worked in a music store for 5 years. That's the only way I know East Coast versus West Coast. Otherwise, I'd have no clue. I had to have the youngins. And back then, I was only 30 years old. I had to have the youngins educate me on East versus West. Man, you don't know what East Coast versus West Coast is. I'm like, whatever. No, I mean, is that the Beach Boys and the Beatles? And
the New Year's Eve, we're going to be the 31st. We are going to be on. So New Year's Eve is going to be a Brady Bunch type of show. Tune in at 8 o'clock. We'll have the room open for all the miscreants.
Looks like I'm free that night. Like I'm doing anything on New Year's Eve.
I'll be there.
Yeah, we'll bring the Brady Bunch in. No fears on that one. No fears. Oh my god.
I know this is I don't know what we're going to talk about the last hour, but I want to spend some time talking about a couple of friends of mine, and I want to talk about an unpleasant subject, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I know. Yesterday, Rebecca Heineman passed away.
Right.
Rebecca was the wife of Janelle Jaquays. Janelle was a very good friend of mine. I met Janelle at first North Texas, and I didn't know her only 16, 17 years, but wonderful person. Rebecca was her wife, and she passed away really unexpectedly. She was diagnosed with cancer in September, and it was an extremely aggressive, fast-moving carcinoma. Went through her whole body. At one point, she had cancer in her colon, lungs, and liver, I believe. And a few days ago, she had done chemo, and at a certain point, you just say, what's the point? That it's not going to work. It may extend my days by maybe a few weeks. It's not worth the effort. And so I actually talked to her. I am here. I talked to her November 5th was the last time I talked to her. And I'd sent her, a bunch of hopefully nice words about her and Janelle. And she sent me back a picture of herself, which is awful. She wanted to show me what the cancer had done to her, but she was not afraid and very, she made her decision by then. Hey, I'm going to stop the chemo. Her family was with her, but man, I was just talking today with Gary about so many horrible cancer things happen. This also, Rocky Gardner, Jason Gardner, Rocky, his cancer was in remission for 5 years, has come back. He now has stage 4 cancer, which blows my mind that it could be gone for 5 years and then come back and within a matter of months of stage 4. He has a GoFundMe. Eric, do you have the link to that GoFundMe?
I just linked it.
Okay.
By the way, folks, if you go to the blog site, tenkarstavern.com, yesterday's blog post is about Rocky's fundraiser. The tavern's going to match the first $250 that's raised by members of this community. So just if you do give to the GoFundMe, no matter how small, how big, indicate it on the blog side so I can keep track. I'll leave it up for like a week, and wherever we are at the week, if it's at $250 or more, we'll throw in $250. Otherwise, we'll match what you guys raise. I think we're already at $125. So
that's great because Rocky and his family are good people. He's married. His wife, he has 2 boys. It just sucks, man. These are some really great people. Rebecca was a really wonderful person. Also, by the way, go to Wikipedia and read her bio, and there'll be at least one fact in there you didn't know, because I knew that she'd worked on some games I love. She worked on Bard's Tale 3, Wasteland, Castle Wolfenstein. But I did not know, and apparently this is one of her bullet points, that she won the very first Space Invaders tournament in 1980. By the way, she's exactly my age. So she was my age at the time. The Space Invaders tournament, going in as not even one of the 100 ranked people in the world, just rolled up. I mean, it's like a movie or something. Just this brash kid rolls up and beats the pants off everybody else and sets the Space Invader record. So she was a really big icon in the video game industry. Very pleasant. She attended North Texas whenever Janelle did. When they moved back to Texas from the West Coast, and they moved to Janelle's old house in Heath, Texas, we told Janelle, "Hey, we'd love to have you back to the con. Can I bring Rebecca?" Well, of course you can bring Rebecca. And I know there was a lot of people who went to North Texas that were blown away by having Rebecca at the con because they knew who she was and what she'd done. I know a lot of people in the RPG area probably don't know all her video game chops, but they're immense. I think she actually helped. I think she helped found Interplay also, which obviously is a huge play in the video game industry. So it's been a really rough few weeks around here when it comes to people. And like I said, Rocky she's a great person. I met him at going to cons. He and Ian were kind of like stuck together at the hip. They make me laugh because their big thing was they would go to cons together and they shared a room with a king size bed, which I'm like, why do you do that? Well, because it's king size, and all that's left when you get a room late is a king size bed. It's not like we're snuggling with each other. We each sleep on one side and we're fine. I'm like, that's kind of genius, but that's still, to me, kind of freaks me out a little bit. As much as I love Eric, I don't know that I'd like to share.
Well, we're both king size, so I mean that's
I don't know. But so yes, they shared a king size bed at cons for many years, and by the way, they also we had a prank war going on that I didn't even really participate in because I was just the one getting pranked constantly by those 2 idiots. And Zach, by the way, Zach and Skeeter were absolutely complicit in the pranking. The best one, I think, was when they went into our room and they put Nick Cage pillowcases on all my pillows. And I said, okay, we're going to do this. So I posed half naked with the pillowcases and sent them pictures. And they promised me they would never do that again. Because
So you inspired James Raggy, is what you're telling us.
I went full James Raggy on them, and they soon learned that perhaps they didn't win that prank. Perhaps the winner was myself.
So you're telling us about your campaign then?
Yeah, they basically. But anyways, so yes, give to Rocky. Rocky's a great person. It just man, this just sucks. And I was talking to Gary, and Gary's like, man, it just seems like every week. I know this is just part of getting older. Every week's a body blow. Somebody's been to the hospital, somebody's gotten hurt, somebody's suddenly has stage 4 cancer. It's miserable. It's awful. And it's going to suck in the last few years.
I'm on Facebook. I got partly because I didn't move away from the town I grew up in. I'm in my high school. The Facebook group that my high school class uses to do reunion stuff. And it just seems like the name piles up every decade more and more and more. And it's too
Anyway,
bad.
I wanted to bring that up definitely because that's two people that that have been to the con that I was close to. That I respect. Look, Silver Bullet is a really great company that Ian and Rocky put together, and they haven't published in very much lately. I know mostly because of Rocky's issues, but last 5 years, like I said, he's been fighting cancer, so it's been tough for him to come out with anything. But their stuff Ian's stuff's great. Ian still has published a few things. I finally got the Kickstarter he did about the evil sheep, which was creepy as hell. I didn't bring it with me on my vacation, otherwise I would pimp that. I can't remember the name of it, but it was pretty darn good. It's a little digest adventure that's it's very creepy. But anyway, I just want to bring that up. I didn't mean to bring the mood down too much, but I wanted to make sure Eric got that GoFundMe info out there. I think it's up about $7,000 now. Every cent will help with
It's
that.
just under 7,300. Oh no, it's just under 7,400. So, by the way, I do want to point out that Ty Beard and Gary Oliver were both extremely generous on the GoFundMe.
Good deal. Good deal.
Good.
We sometimes forget, but we are literally a community. And it's a Venn diagram because it's overlapping and people are part of more than one community. But we really are part of a very strong, caring community. If you go to conventions, it'll just reinforce it. And I'm not saying Gen Con or Origins or PAX. I'm talking North Texas and ShireCon and TotalCon and WizardCon. These conventions that are 150 to 1,000 people where you get to actually make time with people and get to talk with people that maybe you only see online on Facebook or on these videos, and you actually have to make those connections. That's what's so important about this community. So we talk about it often. If you can get a chance to go to a local con, do so. Jim
can tell you this because Jim does all the auctions. It's amazing that people can fight so hard at the auctions, yet they're still friends afterwards, and they'll go have a beer. And I've seen many a time where you get the people raise their hand. They're like, "Who is bidding against me? I can't." My Bill Meinhardt.
Well, one war's enemies, next war's allies.
And yet, after the auction's over, it's back to, okay, cool. You got that. That was awesome. You got that. I got this. Everybody's cool. There's not really any animosity there. Well, that I know of. If Jim has heard of any animosity, I don't know, but I never see any animosity. It's just, we're just going to go. We're going to bid against each other. We're going to divide up the kick-ass items and move on.
I've said before, what's really striking to me is Gen Con picks its charity partners. It picks the people who are going to benefit from the fundraising efforts for the year, and they usually pick two charitable organizations. It's really striking to me because frequently smaller conventions will raise as much money as Gen Con or more, and a part of it is Gen Con is sort of like San Diego Comic-Con. It's just too big. You can say there's a Gen Con community, but really it's a number of communities that have all sort of merged together for a chaotic weekend in Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. But when you have smaller conventions, when you have your Shire Cons or North Texas, Wizard Con, et cetera, they are communities. They are smaller communities, and it's very hard to sort of walk into a small con and carry a chip on your shoulder because it's 500 people. You're not a big fish in a small pond. Everybody's, it's a stocked pond and everybody's about the same size.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I always find it's very interesting to see, when you can talk about a show and sort of talk about it's more like a family reunion than it is a con. I think that's where you also see the incredible depths and reservoirs of generosity. I'm really a fan of small conventions. I've said that. There's no reason for me to repeat everything that Eric and Mike have just said. I think that gamers on a whole want to do the right thing and want to help and raise money for the right things. And both of the situations that we're talking about, they're another example of all of us getting older. Part of the problem I had with my knee is arthritis. I'm 57 years old, and after a lifetime of shenanigans, my left knee was just like, nope, not going to do it. And I had repair work 15 years ago, but I needed to have more repair work. We're all wrestling with all of this. One of my best friends since fifth grade, they're dealing with cancer in his family, and the same person has fought cancer multiple times, but it seems to be on the comeback. I get a very hard text a couple of days ago while I was tramadoled up, and I'm still wrapping my head around it, right? Because if they can't get ahead of this, the end result is going to be what it's going to be, and we're at that age where mortality is always in the corners, and we're losing people that we think, how in the world could we possibly lose this person? You're talking about Janelle's wife, and all I'm thinking about is my dad, right? Because they put his case through a Cray supercomputer to try to come up with a course of action, and after 22 hours, 24 hours, there simply was no combination that could work. There was nothing they could do. And you have these moments where you think to yourself, we're in the 21st century. We're doing all sorts of things with amazing science, but science has limits. Medical science has limits. And there's some things they can do that are simply astounding. And there are things that there isn't anything they can do. And so I try not to be sad, right? I think this is one of the reasons you have to live the life you live. And I think you have to, live according to your credo. If you want to pick West Coast, East Coast fights with people, you can. But I think it's far easier to sort of find the good in the community and try to hold that up as an exemplar and try to support the people who've done good things in the community. We all know who the shitheads are, and we try to avoid the shitheads, right? I have very famously said that I'm trying to have a blank free millennium because I just don't need that person in my life. I just don't, right? I've joked about that for a number of years simply because life's too short to deal with shitheads, and it's too short to tolerate them. And I could be singing the praises of any number of indie publishers, right? We've got Chubby Funster in the comments, and he and I were poking back and forth today over something and had a good laugh.
Well, Chubby wants to get hard. I mean, and
I'm happy for Chubby, but like, I look at Zach. I look at Zach and Jen and the new business that they've got going, and I think it's going to be amazing. I think there's a lot of great things coming in the RPG industry. I think there's a lot of great things that are percolating in what I call the middle tier, and I'm very excited to see this stuff bubble up. I think that Stranger Things is going to land, and when it lands, we're just going to see where this takes us. Is it going to be big again?
That's next week. That's next week.
I know.
Oh, wow. Holy crap.
We
waited right up on all of this.
Waited years and years.
So I always say, I always think when it comes to something like this, I always think of the night that Tom Petty died. And I'm a big Tom Petty guy. Damn the Torpedoes is an amazing album. And Tom Petty, early Tom Petty, when they're hungry and really trying to make some music that stands out. But I remember where I was the night that Tom Petty died, and I poured out some of my best bourbon into a glass, and I put on Damn the Torpedoes, and I put on the 4 CD live set that I had gotten from Best Buy a number of years ago. And I reflected on all the things, right? It's like when Janelle died, I thought about all the stuff that Janelle did with Judges Guild and how Janelle got started and how Joe Goodman managed to take the manure of Judges Guild and shenanigans, and gave us that amazing volume that collected Janelle's works and gave us a chance to have a book celebrating Janelle in her lifetime, which I thought was just an amazing moment. So I would say,
Yeah, George
yeah, you should
Goodman
throw
Games
money at
did a
the
good job with that.
You should throw money at the GoFundMe. You should try to support the people who need some help and need a helping hand. And at the same time, try to recognize the people that are doing good in the industry and that are important to you, and say the nice things, because there may be a day where you can't say the nice things anymore.
We're very lucky that we're not part of the diplomacy community.
There is no diplomacy community.
Oh,
It
there is.
literally
They
a
just all
tribe of
hate each other,
facts.
and they have death. There was a great article written about the diplomacy community, I believe, in Rolling Stone a few years ago, and they pretty much all hate each other and want to kill each other, and like for real life. Like, I'm not even, I want to kill you, Jim. Haha. It's like, I want that guy to die because he screwed me over for the championship in 2020, and I hope he gets hit by a bus and dies horribly in this. I mean, that's the kind of stuff they say about you. So we're not part of the diplomacy community. We're part of the RPG community, which is awesome. It's awesome.
I think one of the most fascinating reads that I've ever, talk about gaming and so on, the most fascinating read I've had in the last 10 years was an article about the real world machinations that go on between EVE Online player groups, and how, there are literally face-to-face meetings with representatives of these gigantic solar entities on EVE Online. And there is, this is a map. If we decide we go to war, how are we carving up this organization, and so on. And what was fascinating, right, is that there's betrayal, there's détente, there's, do the fleets go past the limit that we have set? Well, there's an opportunity. Do we take the opportunity, or do we abide by the treaty, right? And when you see how these player organizations all interact and so on and so forth, I mean, this is diplomacy writ large on a galaxy-wide scale, but it's still the same backstabbing, treachery, et cetera, et cetera. And I just really, it was fascinating to read, absolutely fascinating to read, because the guys that got together, the men and women that got together to sort of hammer this all out, there was duplicitous behavior, there was earnest intent, there was honesty. People got, it upended the northern quadrants of EVE Online, because when Goonhammer went to war, Goonhammer didn't necessarily abide by all the things that they said they were going to, because the chaos created opportunity, and where there is opportunity, there's a chance to grow larger and bigger and stronger. And they took it, and it was a great read, a really, really good read.
Well, on a smaller scale, I was part of an organization in the 90s and early 2000s called Nero LARP. I actually owned a chapter and ran a chapter for about 6 years. And the thing is that happens because they allow player versus player combat. And whenever you have that, then whenever you have competition for something that's scarce, in the case of Nero, it was magic items, ritual components to make magic items, and stuff like that, you'll get drama or conflict. So, and they can get quite intricate and quite bloody in a pretend sort of way. But the feelings, though, the hurt feelings, yeah, that's very much real.
Yeah,
that's a problem they haven't solved.
My favorite moment in all my online gaming of decade, 20 odd years, my favorite story is still Ultima Online. And so we had somebody at the office who was like, Ultima Online, it's great, it's amazing, you should get on board, blah, 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 blah. And so I hopped on, I got the starter kit. I listened to the sage advice who said, just spend a week in your little cabin leveling your guy up so that, you'll not walk out in the world and get killed by a deer or something. I was like, oh, okay. So I'd get home from work and I'd spend an hour or two doing this and that and so on. And the first time I walked out of the cabin, a guy walked up, stabbed and killed me, looted everything I had, and all my week of effort was for naught.
Yep.
And I just was like, and I'm done. And
That
I
was my
can't.
experience.
And
Exactly.
I was out. I was like, nope. Forget it.
Well, the live action, fortunately, was it was a blessing and a curse. It was a blessing in that all that stuff took longer to play out, because when you're talking digital like Eve or Ultima Online, it's very easy to be a dick, and because it's just pixels on the screen to many people, not real to them. But when
Right.
you do it in LARP, you're actually face to face. So it takes a little long for that dick moment. Excuse my language. I hope it. Anyway, that dick moment to come. But yes, it will eventually come. Usually, surprisingly, it's not usually because of somebody being evil, like deliberately trying to rob somebody. No, it usually starts, and I've seen enough of this happen to see the trend. Is when somebody screws up. So you have two groups, okay? We're talking about maybe 8 to 12 people, so 24 people in total. They go out on an adventure together, but somebody doesn't pay attention, or somebody goes left when they should go to right. And then somebody else in the other group dies because of that, or in game die, or they lose their stuff because of that. Now there's recrimination, and they're like, no, I didn't do anything wrong. Yes, you did. And that's where the bad blood, and then over the following month, sometimes years, it just escalates until one night, we have this role called marshal, that they're independent rule. They're like a DM, but they don't do the adventure. They just make ruling. So get woken up at midnight as a marshal to make sure they follow everything by the rule, because they're about to go raid the other group's cabin and gank them all in the middle of the night.
God, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, talk about
This
hurt
is my not
feelings.
surprised face.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not only you
Obviously,
woke up at 3.
in LARPing, I guess you need to leave you have to have like a watch rotation. I
Yeah.
mean, wow. That's some
Not only
evil
you get
shit.
woke up at
Your
2 in the morning,
cabin.
you've been drinking all night, but you get woke up to find out that your character just got killed by.
Alcohol wasn't allowed, so
Ugh.
everybody was stone cold sober while they're doing this.
Oh man.
So you can't even use that as an excuse.
Yoicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I played diplomacy once in college. It lasted 3 rounds, and me and another guy both looked at each other and said, "You know what? We're gonna hate everybody if we continue playing this." He's like, "Yeah." I go, "I think we're just gonna have to ghost," and we ghosted it. It's like, "Yep, we're not.
Yeah.
Don't bother giving us anything." Then it's like, "Oh, do you want
I
to
think I've
play?
told this story.
What was it? What was that other movie? Other one, Killer Assassin, with like you're killing other like college."
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want anything to do with it, because with my luck, it's going to happen during like a lab class, and I'll be really screwed. So
I've told this story real quick, Rob. I've told this story here before, but our friend group back home in Kentucky, we had the one guy who was hot for us all to play diplomacy, and our group of role playing friends and so on, we played diplomacy. We spent a day playing diplomacy, and the one game when it was done, like nobody talked to anybody for 2 weeks.
Yep.
Like it took 2 weeks for everybody to just get all of that out, and we all agreed we're never playing diplomacy again, because it's a game that kills friendships. It just destroys friendships. I have no part in it. Go ahead, Rob. Sorry.
So one more thing I'll say about LARP. So if we ever have a discussion about what it would be like if a D&D style world was real, well, I know the answer because I've seen it played out in multiple chapters. It's gang warfare. That's what it would play out. The nobles are one gang. The gypsy group is another gang. The elves are yet a third gang, and so forth and so forth. And just people. If you want to rule a community of adventuring parties, you got to go back to the Germanic Dark Ages, and because they're all these groups of friends surrounded one or two charismatic leaders, And if somebody upset another person in another group, then eventually, it goes like that.
So I've mentioned before that I played WoW, and what was very striking on our server is that like a lot of WoW servers, it was heavily tilted towards Alliance versus Horde. So I would say our server was roughly 2.5, 3 people on the Alliance side for every person playing Horde side. And as a Horde player, you sort of just got used to this, right? And there were all sorts of large guilds on the Alliance side, some PvP guilds, and at the time you had to agree to enter PvP combat and sort of see where it went. And on the Horde side, a bunch of people who were in different guilds, but had sort of bounced around or whatever, they were all the major Horde PvP players. And they all just sort of formed their one guild. And it was Sanguine Steel. I remember the name. And there was a private channel that was like Horde Defense or something. But if you were some like low rent new player, and God forbid you were in the Barrens trying to level up your sad sack of character, and the Alliance players would start to pester you or provoke you to try to get you to hit them so they could hit you back, and so on and so forth. All it took was putting the word into the defense channel. And literally, like, phones were dialing and people were logging in, and then the whole damn guild would just appear and mop them up. And they were so good at PvP that at the time that Blizzard rolled out ranks, where the more kills you got, the higher your rank was over a period of time, and so on and so forth, there were multiple people in Sanguine at the highest level of the PvP rating. And I mean, like 7 or 8 of them were ranked general or whatever the god-awful title was. But they absolutely drilled into the Alliance. You can do whatever you want, but if you open this can of whoop ass, we're not going to stop. And it finally got to a point where on Saturdays, every Saturday, they made a point of going to each of the Alliance capital cities and killing the non-player characters, whoever the heads are, every Saturday at the same time. And you would watch Alliance guilds tripping all over themselves to mount a defense, and it never worked. They still steamrolled through all of them and killed every single Alliance commander. And you're just, like, what in the world? So, I'm never surprised by this. I'm never surprised.
Now imagine your WoW experience if you could have intra faction fights, like different alliances could fight each other, and that's what Nero was like.
Sure.
On a smaller scale.
Yeah.
We would have like 50 people,
that's
about 1,000 people on a server.
Yeah. See, I did Conan for a bit. Everything there was default PvP. You were hiding half the time. Ultima Online sucked shite because the moment you left to do anything, somebody ganked you. The only time I actually enjoyed PvP was EverQuest, because it was like, I was on a server that was only like racial languages, so you couldn't communicate other than hand signals to other races. But the PvP was very light when it happened. It wasn't like big, huge guilds. It was one-on-one FU, and I was like, I could deal with that. But Agile, look at you, Agile, 11 months on. Thank you for being a supporter, by the way.
I hate to say this, but I love that stuff. I love PvP. I play a game called Rust. Dog eat dog. Everybody's out for themselves. Even if you play as part of a group, you can still shoot the shit out of each other. So I just like the challenge. To me, when I play anything that involves like first person shooter skill type thing, whether it's even just swords, playing the computer opponent is always lacking. I like going up against people, and to be honest, I'm not a top tier player. I'm second tier at best, but I just enjoy the challenge. I don't like things handed on a plate, and I have my moment.
I game to relax. If I have to have any kind of conflict. I want to sit there for 2 hours, turn my brain off. I play Fallout 76, Madden. I play things that you don't really have PvP or fight. I don't want conflict. Conflict exists everywhere. I just want to sit down and go do whatever. Go kill a monster. Go do a quest. Go play a game. The Bears versus the Cowboys or something. I don't want any kind of. I don't need that negativity in my life. I just can't.
Here's the thing. I don't want them talking to me, because when they start talking to me, then I start thinking of them as a person, and I don't trash talk them. I don't want to talk to them. Okay, just bring your A game to whatever you're trying to do. Try to raise your base, but just don't freaking talk to me. Then once you start talking to me, then I'll feel bad, and I won't bring my A game.
Well, let me tell you that all you need to do is watch a bunch of teenagers play Call of Duty to hear the worst stuff you've ever heard human beings say to another human being. And it will. And you're like, you're only 16. How do you even know those words? I mean, they will, man, oh man. Some of the hell they rain on each other just verbally is my younger grandson, not Jake, but the younger one. He plays Rust a lot. He's really good at Rust. He is. I don't know if I'm proud of this or not. He has made grown men actually cry, where you could hear them sniffling, because he will go in there and absolutely destroy him. And then just to twist the knife, he'll tell him he's 14 years old. Hey, dude, you just got beat by a 14-year-old. How you like that? Maybe I should come over and check out your mom and your girlfriend too. And they're just like, you're not really 14. Like, yeah, I am 14. How's that feel? And they're like, oh,
I don't do that. I don't do that shit. I just let my work.
My son was top 200 of Counter-Strike. And like that was his jam, and he could play without even using his eyes, simply because he knew the maps so well that he could just listen. And I watched him inflict grievous suffering on people. I watched him kill 3 people with one shot one time, and they literally accused him of hacking. And he was like, "I'll join whatever game you guys want." Like, sure, okay. And then they would look at all of his achievements, right? All of the achievements in Steam, and they just, he knew every creak of every floorboard in the stupid map.
Kids are so good at that. That's just, they're better. They have their twitch muscles are all twitching. I mean, Jake I remember playing games, and he came in and he goes, "Papa, I just won PUBG." I'm like, "Oh, great." I don't know what PUBG is. And then he came in like 10 minutes later, I just won again. I'm like, Then I found out how effing hard it is to win a match. I'm like, dude, you came in 5 times last weekend and told me you won. Maybe we should be doing this professionally. I mean, he goes, and you got really good at it, but it's one of those things. What are you going to do with that skill? I mean, that's not really a job skill. It's more of unless you want to do that, I guess, full time, which, he's like, whatever. And then he quit doing it. Just quit doing it. But I mean, he was so good at it, but I figured out it's kids. Kids, they could just do that. They don't have as many outside distractions as we do as adults. And so when they play a game, they are all in on that game, and they're not worried about bills, about their wife, about their girlfriend. I mean, they're focused.
Nothing has a singular monofocus like a teenager.
Absolutely.
Like literally, my son went from Counter-Strike and knowing every inch of the Counter-Strike maps to Japanese domestic manufacturer cars. And we had a very funny moment where we had a neighbor who had actually worked for Nissan and had been to Japan and worked in the factories in Japan. And so this guy was no slouch. Like, he had lived in Japan. He knew it forwards and backwards. And one day he was over at our house and started a conversation with our son. And I watched it out of the corner of my eye, right? And you know how you can just tell when somebody's hair is being blown back straight? I walked over after about 15 minutes, and my son sort of wandered away. And I said, "Well," and he goes, "Jesus Christ, that kid knows more than I'll ever know about JDM." And I was like, again, it's that teenage monofocus, right?
Yes,
That's
but
it.
they do have one weakness. They are weak on strategy often, and
Yes.
that's where I come into play. It's like in Rust, I could never outshoot the kids. I just couldn't. I'm just even if I were their age, I probably couldn't outshoot them. I'm just not that coordinated. However, when it comes to raiding base, I could do. I could. I mean, not to say they were no slouch, but I did it. I figured out ways how to do it myself, and I even get to the point where I could raid a base in such a way I could leave a spot where I can come back into the base without them knowing about it and repeatedly raid, leaving them wondering our base is destroyed. How are we losing stuff still? So, it's a strategy. Or when I play a first person shooter, not Counter Strike because I don't think it has this mode, but I like Battlefield because they have other objectives like seizing control points that I'm able to do well
Mhm.
because I'm usually have the highest number of deaths in any round. But I'm up there in the top third in points because I pay attention to the actual objective of the scenario.
Well, yeah.
Let's just say
Go
Fallout
ahead.
76 had PvP when it first introduced 7 years ago, and the Fallout community is kind of a different community that it was so incredibly unpopular that 7 years later there's virtually no PvP in Fallout 76. It's almost impossible. Both sides have to agree to it, and
Yeah.
nobody agrees to it because nobody wants to do PvP. So it just depends on your community. And obviously, the people who play Call of Duty, they don't like games like Fallout 76 because it's as much strategy and thinking as it is, actually just going up against somebody, because it doesn't matter always your equipment. It matters, as Rob said, how good your strategy is. So most PvPers will jump into Fallout 76 for a week and decide, well, nobody wants to fight me. Like, it's not that kind of game, dude. It's a
That's
discovery
right.
game.
Dude, we're
And
all
it's
too
just,
busy building our homes. Leave us
yeah,
alone.
exactly. You're building this giant tree house or something. You don't have time to, like, PvP. I don't have time to PvP, dude. Doing all this shit.
Why would
Oh,
I
I only
do?
briefly touched Fallout 76, so it has base building in there.
Oh, it's huge now. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was one of the things people ended up liking a lot about it. They didn't think that was going to be such a big deal. People love that, and so I mean, they have contests. They around Halloween, it's crazy in Fallout 76. We just got through with Halloween because people do these insanely elaborate Halloween bases that just have everything you can imagine and shit. And I just like to go. I go from base to base and just take pictures and look at it like, oh my god, how did they do that? I mean, they must have bought so many kits with they must have spent so many atoms to buy kits to do this and that. But that's some people. That's the only reason they play. They want to build more
There's
and
a
more
game out
elaborate
there
bases. Yeah.
called Pax Dia, and the building there is crazy, and it's medieval. It's like I wouldn't say kind of fantasy, but the base, so it's all these medieval buildings, and some of the some of these buildings are just works of art because they have beams in there, so they make all these crazy sculptures out of the beams. So
I I'll just say again, I've latched onto Stellaris for most of my PvP needs, and really, if you want body counts, I mean Counter Strike and so on, Stellaris, I'm wiping out races. I mean, I'm just erasing things from the entire existence of the galaxy. We our regular Tuesday night crew, we waffle between reasonably decent fellas to, oh my god, we're all determined exterminators fighting over who's going to be the last one to turn the lights out on the galaxy. It's just too much fun. Too much fun. But I'm a 4X guy, so
You had you by the way, you got Gary hooked back on Stellaris. You must answer for that crime, sir, because he
hey,
told me
listen,
he enjoyed
I-
playing with the
oh, you're a
Stellaris.
Stellaris fan?
Stellaris, yeah, oh
Yeah,
yeah,
Stellaris.
I love Stellaris. I play
yeah.
play more Hearts of Iron than Stellaris, but it's my second favorite.
Stellaris, I mean, the problem with Stellaris is how much I like Stellaris, because I could get lost in Stellaris. Like, I could lose days in Stellaris. And so I limit myself to only Tuesday nights. Tuesday night's my only night I play Stellaris. And it is no holds, cutthroat, we've cranked up the AIs. We've cranked up. Yeah, it's brutal. It's an absolute brutal death match in Stellaris on Tuesday nights.
Nice.
I play with a guy who's
You
been
play
playing war
multiplayer
games for 50
Stellaris.
years. And then there's another couple of folks, and yeah, it's just. Although I do love that the most experienced war gamer is the one who whines the most, and it's quite enjoyable listening to him. The problem is like you said, Rob, he's a great strategic thinker, but he doesn't necessarily think in the short term how other alien races are going to see the actions that he takes, and invariably will be in the first hour or two of a new game, and suddenly somebody's declared war on him because they didn't like how he annexed something or did something, and he is still surprised. Years into the years of us playing, he's still surprised, and the rest of us are like, you're like the Ted Cruz of Stellaris. It's easier just to hate you and save time.
So let me understand. You play the multiplayer Stellaris?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, because the AI is fine to a point for training wheels, but eventually, if you really want to be challenged, you have to play other players, because again, you can't code sneaky, deviant, nasty behavior the way other players can screw you over. Like I will literally build an entire fleet. I'll build 2 or 3 fleets that are stealthed with nothing but missiles. Like I literally have capital ship missiles on small ships that are stealth, and I have fleets of them hidden around. And you want to come into my territory, you're welcome to, right? And just when you think everything's going your way, then all of a sudden I drop the cloaks and I wipe your entire fleet out with long-range missiles, and then I cloak and disappear.
What do you do before cloak?
It just depends. It depends on who I'm playing and how they play. I don't want to get. I mean, I
Don't want to give his secrets away.
Don't
mean,
give
really,
your secrets away, sir. Yes. Your Stellaris buddies may be watching and say,
yes, I have no doubt. So, but I like, that's the kind of stuff we like. So,
I always said that when I got older, 'cause I really, like you were saying, Jim, and these games can become so overwhelming. If I was 16 years old now, I don't know how I'd graduate high school, much less live an actual career-filled life. But there's so many games I would always say, I'm going to do that later when I have time later. And the problem is a lot of those games are obsolete now that I said I would do later. And so I'm stuck now.
but-
I better play now because I'm not guaranteed later.
So
I
I'll
play
talk
these.
about-
Pro tip, Mike, you can play them in your web browser now.
Yeah, but
stuff
I'll talk to a couple of those. So I like a couple of older games that I go back to. I probably go back to 2 or 3 times a year. Number one is Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri. For a lot of reasons, that's one of my favorite 4X games. I played it. I beta tested the expansion. So I really love Sid Meier's. It screams on new computers. It's just great. This dates me. I really liked the World of Zine, where you bought both halves of Zine, the computer game, and then it created a world of Zine on your computer. I love that stuff. It was very silly, but good fun. And then I'm a big fan of some of the old gold box games, like
You
the
can play those
SSI
in
stuff
emulator.
is, yeah,
I
you can
play
go
with
back to that every
emulators,
now and then,
and
but it's a little hard. But I think you have to find the things that they remind you of things, right? I remember playing Pool of Radiance and how much I fell in love with Pool of Radiance when it came out. Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri is one. There's a couple of these real-time strategy. I was a Red Alert guy. Oh my God, we used to do Red Alert at the office on Saturday, and it was just so. But I will say this: the game that taught me the greatest lesson about time management. It was XCOM UFO Defense, the original XCOM, because I was a guy that I could lose 6 hours. I could sit down after dinner at 7:00 and I would be at 2:30, 3:00 in the morning going, oh my God, I got to stop. And so like a lot of people, you, when you're young and you're dumb, you don't have your priorities right. And so I could do that and I would lose all those hours and so on. And finally, I realized that wasn't making me a better player. It was killing time because I didn't have a girlfriend or whatever. And so after I got a girlfriend and sort of realized where this was going, I limited myself to 1 XCOM mission a night. Like I would, my Sky Ranger would take off with my platoon of guys, and I would do one mission a night. And what I found is that it created, like, I didn't set a time limit, so I didn't say that I would play for a half an hour or I would play for 45 minutes or whatever. I would do one mission a night. Some nights, boom, it would go and it would be over and done. And then there were nights where it would drag on, or there would be nights where the sectoid would pop up with a missile launcher, drop the missile into my Sky Ranger, wipe out everybody, and boom, I had to start over from scratch. But I found that made it a lot better. How many of you had focus issues with schoolwork because of the D&D games?
You know what? That's a great question because so I started playing in 78. I started college in fall of 81. I had some issues with staying up late and like, well, I got something going on this week, or the group, they want to play D&D this week. And sadly, D&D would win out many times. I learned after my first semester in college never to have an 8 a.m. class. Because if you were playing D&D the night before and we were still not really pacing ourselves, we'd play till 1 or 2 in the morning. I wouldn't make class. I literally just that semester I probably missed one class every 2 weeks at least, because it was I think it was a Tuesday. Was it a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class? I can't remember. I missed enough to where the teacher was concerned about my home life. Was everything going okay? And I said, honestly, I hate to say this, but yours is the only class I'm having problems with, and it's just because it's at 8 a.m. I left out the D&D part, but I learned, and after that, I never scheduled an a.m. class ever again. It was ridiculous. That's for people who live on campus and don't have to drive. But I would, if it came down to getting up early for class or playing D&D, D&D would win every time. I figured, whatever. I'd rather play D&D than I would go to early class. And I could say that there was some D&D creep over the years in terms of, did I study for that exam enough, or did I really let myself get sidetracked working out that D&D campaign that I'm running the guys through? But I don't know. In the end, I guess it all turned out okay. But there was definite D&D creep. But back then we didn't, if it was now, it'd be video games, right? I mean,
yeah, for me, it would still be D&D. But I mean, here's the thing. My gaming in college was weekends, Sunday all day, and Saturday all day until I had a girlfriend, in which case Saturday had to get, juggled otherwise. But summers, there were times when I was like, oh man, that class looks really good. It's only given in the summer. Oh no, I can't because we're going to be gaming 5 days a week. Because everybody was off in the summer. Yep. And it's like
you had to maximize your
part-time jobs, but you found time. Everybody was gaming it, so you couldn't take summer classes. And that there were some really cool ones. I'm like, oh, I can't do that because I'm going to wind up cutting, and you can't afford to cut a summer class because it's only given for like 4.5, 5 weeks. So I was like, oh man.
You made the right decision.
You could blame my gaming and D&D, but the fact is, I mean, any one of those is hard to have it. At least when I went to college in the mid '80s, I went from '84 to '89. It was hard because you had to get people together, and once or twice there just wasn't enough opportunities, and you had to get the people together to play. So it wasn't like video game. We just fired up your computer or device and start playing. But really, I have to say my lack of focus was pretty much me. And unfortunately, I didn't discover summer school until my last 2 years because I really did well with summer school. In hindsight, I should have done most of my college with summer school. That schedule, I went for class. Yeah, it was a lot of work in one day. But when you get done with the work, you go to the class, you do your homework, you were freaking done, and you had the rest of the day. And that was way better to my rhythm than the rhythm of a regular semester. But it was easy to get out of control if you do D&D, if you do BattleTech, because that was big. When you went to release day on the comic book store, when you shot this, then you get together with your friend on your weekly hangout. And then before you know it, you just sucked up all your study time. even though not one of them was the problem. It was all the problem.
Pretty
Somebody
much.
said something in the chat about the game. I think it was Fugly about games on the weekends. So I've told stories before about how we had two groups on campus, small private school. We had a RuneQuest group and a D&D group. They both played on Friday nights, which makes sense. You don't want to play obviously on a school night or weeknight. The problem is when you're in college, Friday night is kind of your party night, right? That's when you hit the clubs or go whatever. So you learned who the true nerdos were because they were the ones. I mean, and these rooms were full. It was the bottom of the dorm room, the dorm ground floor. There was two rooms on caddy corner opposite sides because never the twain shall meet. The RuneQuest people did not like the D&Ders, and so far. So they would sit on different parts of the ground floor, and you would go in there, and it was always, why D&D was always going to be a nerd hobby because everybody else was out doing something. They were going to dances, they were going to bars, they were going to clubs, they were doing something, and the D&D people were always there. And I'm proud to say I was one of the D&D people. I was there with the D&D people.
You know what I got to say about the whole party scene? I thought it was I go there. I went to one or two frat party, and they smelled. I didn't like alcohol to begin with. I just thought the whole thing was a goddamn waste of time and money. Now,
Because
don't get
you're
me
the
wrong.
dad.
I
It's like
understand.
dad. Your grandpa going to it's Rob Conley grandpa going to a party. I could just imagine young college age Rob Conley sniffing. Oh,
No.
smells horrible.
It was nerdish.
And they're drinking
Nerd.
domestic beer. Oh. Out of the
Peasant.
can.
I came across at that age. I came across as a total nerd in every sense of the word. But
Like we
that
have
was my secret weapon. Is I didn't waste money or time on parties, so I was able to even my focus problem. I was able to skate by, but still, I could have done better and not done less chess, done less BattleTech. Not sure how I could have done less D&D because
But
it was
no,
only
look back on it,
week.
Rob. Seriously, you see. I mean, would you have been more of a success in life if you played less BattleTech? Probably not. You played just the right amount of BattleTech to where you have great memories of BattleTech, and you also have a degree, and you got a job, and everything worked out great. I mean, you're not living in an alley going, "I played too much BattleTech." Look at
Look where it got me.
I got lucky. And I thank God for my luck. But it part of it was luck and the support of my parents. And even though I didn't, when I got out of college, I quickly moved out. But I still worked at my parents' business, and I still work for what was my parents' business. We lost a patent lawsuit in the early '90s, so I continued to work for the people who were able to buy the asset. And but no, if I would have, but then again, I can't imagine my life going away different because I still lived in a small town. My life still has some of the small town rhythm. And if I would have been a success at college, I would have been working in Pittsburgh or I would have caught the early internet boom with all that. I mean, yeah, there's success stories there, but also the story of the working condition, which didn't get any better as we progressed through the early 21st century.
Your life wouldn't be the same. You'd have a completely different life.
Right.
And that's
I think
if you're
we're
happy with
all
the way your
living
life is now,
meant to
which
be.
most people generally are. There's a lot of people that aren't happy with the way their lives are. But if you're happy the way your life is now, then the memories that you have from gaming with friends and going to conventions and going to stuff are all worth it. Because I've always said, and my wife always reminds me of this is, I've got to work in the computer, and the grandkids come over and they all want to go to Dave and Buster's. I'm like, I got to work. What are you going to remember 5 years from now? That you worked an extra day, nobody cared about that, or that you went to the kids and created memories of Dave and Buster, and that they're going to remember that also.
Right.
And almost 99.9% of the time, that's what you want to do. You want to do something that's going to create memories, not something that's just, I'm going to work. And 5 years later, you're not going to remember you worked, but everybody's going to remember, oh my gosh, we went to Dave and Buster's. It was so great. We had a great, good time, and everybody was there. And so I try to think of that and think that we did the right thing. We ended up where we're at, and we're probably always meant to end up where we are now.
So I would say the trick is, I mean, family and work has to come first, and friends. And but I found, so when I had my first kid, because I had my first kid late, like I was 30 when my first son was born, and but I quickly, and I wondered about that, how much I would be do any of my old hobbies. And but it turns out, yes, I didn't have much time, but if I didn't fuck around, like when I came to my hobby time, if I had an hour in evening, if I sat down and did something that I enjoyed with D&D for that hour, it worked. It made it work. But before I got married, before I had my kids, I would just mosey around, do whatever, and half my day would be consumed with aimless shit. And it's
Time
only
management.
after I got married I got to say, okay, what's important about my hobby time that after I get everything else done that I'm going to do.
Mhm.
So I made sure. So, I still played, Hearts of Iron or Civilization, but, I made a decision to play it and I wasn't going to do it at the expense of my D&D. It would, it might be like you do, Jim, you have your Tuesday night is Stellarist night. And that's what you got to do. Just whatever time you have left, just make sure you use it productively and in enjoyment.
I will say my greatest moment of studying ever, it'll never be topped, is I was studying for my GRE. I was taking sample tests, and I'd taken a few of them already, but I felt like you couldn't take enough of them. And I'm doing that one night, and there's a banging on my door, and I open the door. My friends reminded me that tonight was my friend Rodney's bachelor party, and they were going to a strip club. And I said, you know what? I'm studying for the GRE. They said, no, you're not. You're coming to the strip club because you've been studying for this whatever test it is for a week now. And I went with them to the strip club, saw unmentionable things, went the next day to the GRE, aced it, absolutely
Wow.
blew doors on it, like to where I was
Yeah.
getting offers from colleges all over the United States. Couldn't believe that I scored that higher in GRE. So I don't know what the lesson is here. I have no clue what the lesson is here. But whatever happened that
Free the
night, must
mind.
Well,
have
it's what they
relaxed my
say in
mind.
Star Wars: bring balance to the Force.
There you go.
Is that what it was?
Just don't,
It was.
just don't freaking create Darth Vader in the process.
All right. So we're hitting the witching hour, so it's
Okay.
time for the wrap ups. Mike, you have music?
I don't have music, but I have. So I'm on vacation for the next few weeks, but I'm going to think of things every week. So this is going to be my 5 trade paperbacks I brought to read while I'm on vacation because I don't get a chance to read them very much. I got things to go on. So here's the 5 trades that I haven't read yet that I want to bring. Deadpool and Cable. They had a comic together. Deadpool and Cable lasted about 50 issues. This is volume 3, Ultimate Collection.
Okay.
I bought Cable and Deadpool. If you've seen the movie, they work great together because one's really serious, the other one's an idiot, and so they obviously play off each other enough to have 50 issues of a comic. This is one of my favorites when I was a kid. I went ahead and got it because the back issues I'd sold long ago. Marvel 2-in-1, the first 20 issues.
Oh,
This
cool.
was,
That's
if you
cool.
liked Marvel Team Up, that was Spider-Man teaming with Character of the Week. Marvel 2-in-1, the Thing, probably the other most marketable character for Marvel in the 70s. This was his team up comic where his great humor would, he would team up with Captain America, Guardians of the Galaxy, Hulk, whatever, and he would have his own adventures. I loved that comic as a kid. It gets, after about 10, 15 issues, it gets very samey, but still good stuff. I've talked about this comic before, Skull Kickers. I have all 6 trades. I kind of dropped off after 4. I'm back with 5. If you like dark fantasy with humor, this is Skull Kickers. I've actually met Jim Zub, the writer, fun guy, knows a lot. He plays D&D. Yes, he knows a lot about D&D. So there's a lot of D&D isms in there, but does a really good job. And so I'm going to pick up. If I can remember what happened the first 4 trades, I have no clue. This is something I know Eric will appreciate. We have King Conan collection. This is the first 5 issues.
Great.
Yeah, the first 5 or 6 issues were great because they novelized, or they did the Spragna Camp. I can't remember the name. I think it's
Roy Thomas was the writer.
Yeah.
For that
Roy
comic.
Thomas did it, but it was a his adaptation of one of the final Conan stories. Conan has a kid, the kid's kidnapped, so of course Conan has to go kill the 4 evil magic users who, it's a quest story. He's going all over the place, killing the 4 evil magic users that kidnapped his son. Great stuff. John Buscema, Roy Thomas. I mean, you can't beat that. Great.
No,
team.
you can't. That's
And
good.
here we go. This.
Amazing Spider-Mans?
Amazing Spider-Man. These are my formative issues. Issue 143 through 180. This is a oh gosh, who was the artist? Not Keith Pollard. Ross Andrews. Ross Andrews, the artist. Jerry Conway did some of the writing. I can't remember else, but this is the Clone Saga. If you've ever heard about the Clone Saga and the repercussions it had through the Marvel Universe for decades to come, this is where the Clone Saga began. And there's Doc Ock in here. He teams up with Nova, the original Nova. He fights Kingpin, Lizard Man. I mean, all his greatest foes. Molten Man returns after 15 years. Harry becomes Green Goblin for the first time. That was a big plot point.
Oh,
later.
wow.
So it's all in here, and I just love late 70s, early 80s stuff. It's just great. It's just great. Those guys knew how to tell a story. They didn't have an agenda except we want to see guys beat the hell out a bad guy, get beat up by a good guy, and of course this is back when Spider-Man was joking and laughing and swinging around. There wasn't any angst or, he was dating Mary Jane. I mean, this is the good stuff. This is the good time. So I cannot wait to get back into this and experience these, 3 or 4 years of Amazing Spider-Man, which was my favorite comic growing up. So I'm excited about that. It's one of the omnibus editions. Now, here's the best part. These are usually run about $125. Got this on eBay for $40. Liquidator was liquidating, and we suspected that it might be the Diamond liquidation because the same dealer had many other omnibuses for $40, which you cannot make money and sell them at that price. So I can't remember the dealer, but if you go on eBay, look up Spider-Man omnibus and look for a guy that's selling tons of these hardback omnibuses for $40. They have some Thunderbolts, Spider-Man, some Iron Man. This is the one I got though because it's really the early Spider-Man was one of my favorites. So those are my 5 trades I'll be reading. Which, by the way, I've been here a week and haven't started any of them yet. So we'll see how that goes. I guess if I actually get through any of them. So
I got
Jim,
nothing this
you
week.
have a movie? Jim, you've been bedridden. You had to have watched a movie in the last 5 days.
All right. I can't remember if I've talked about this before or not, but I will. Batman the Animated Adventures.
Oh, cool.
When this came out in the 90s, it absolutely revolutionized animation. It was a series that just nailed it from the get-go. Bruce Timm's hand all over it. If you have HBO Max, I believe the entire thing is available to watch on demand on HBO Max. I'm a guy that hates commercials, so I've got the Blu-ray. I had it on the DVD set beforehand. I just love it to death. I think it's one of the hallmarks of animation in the last half century.
Was
Batman animated series.
In that one?
Oh yeah, Mark Hamill starts playing it as the Joker. This was so successful they did the Mask of the Phantasm as an actual movie in the theaters, and it was mildly successful. But it's just a good run. It's a good Batman run. It has all the things about Batman that you love. Introduced Harley Quinn.
Wow.
I think I talked about that. I got one of my 2 Harley Quinn debut issues back. It was rated 9.4. Was very happy about that. But that's my pick of the week. Go find Batman Animated Adventures and go enjoy it. You'll love it.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with almost anything that those guys did. It was just so good.
I got a book or 2 called. You guys ever heard of Silo by Hugh Howey?
Yes, love that. I read yes.
He has another series called Sand,
which is good, great,
Earth,
also. Mm-hmm.
Which imagine the Earth covered with hundreds of meters of desert sand, and it's technologically a little advanced in that they have these suits that allows them to swim underneath the sand. So I haven't finished it yet, but so far it's giving me the same good vibe as the original Silo series is. So
Hugh Howey's one of
forward.
my he's one of my heroes. He bucked the system and said, I don't need an agent. I'm gonna do my own books, and he published them on episodically on Amazon. Paid for his own art, paid for everything himself, and he won. It worked for him. He made a buttload of money. Didn't have to split it with anybody. Didn't have to compromise his vision. Did exactly what he wanted to do, and so yeah, he's kind of one of my heroes. That's just. He just said.
Did you guys see the late breaking news this week? That just I think this is a good time to mention this. So, one of the things that was revealed was that they have been feeding AI authors' works to try to get the AI up to speed on dialogue and so on and so forth. And so there's now a settlement with authors whose books were read into AI.
Yep, they got them from like the Internet Archive or whatever. They didn't actually pay for them.
Yes, and so if you had a book as an author, if you had a book that was read into the AI, the settlement is $3,000 per book.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how much the lawyers are going to collect. I don't know how this works out, but I saw that breaking late today that there is now a settlement amount, and that authors whose books were ripped and read into the AI are due $3,000 per book.
Nice. That is awesome.
My sister had one of her books read into that. So that's good to know, because she didn't know what the settlement was going to be. She just knew it was a class action lawsuit that she had to sign into.
Yep.
Because the total was like, I don't know, the settlement was for like, I don't know, $3 billion. But then they had to figure out, that was without knowing how many books were involved in this. They came to that number. So it's good to know how much individually it's going to be.
Yeah.
However, there's some caveats. So first of all, your the settlement only applies to registered works.
Yep.
Second, they were not dinged for reading the books into the AI.
They were dinged for not paying for them, is what it came down to.
Yes, they pirated. It was proven that they pirated the books off the internet, and that's what they're being penalized for. So the issue of AI being trained on authors' works, not settled.
Right.
Somebody with deep pockets like Oracle, Facebook, or Microsoft, or I guess OpenAI too, they can go on Amazon or eBay and buy an entire library of paperback and feed it in, and authors can't say boo at the moment.
Yeah. Interesting stuff.
Well, good deal. The fight against AI continues then. Awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna go for years.
Right.
Folks, real quick notes. By the way, thank you to Agile for gifting some memberships. Always a great supporter of this channel. Live streams the next 3 days. Yeah, I don't think we have a Sunday. We did a Sunday night special last week. So 8 p.m. the next 3 nights, live streams on this channel. Appreciate the support. Our subscribership is growing in leaps and bounds. So again, thank you all. We do this out of the love of the community, and we enjoy spending time with you. So on that note, I'll see many of you tomorrow at 8 p.m. Otherwise, be safe, be well. God bless. And we'll catch you later.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Joe, lawyer too. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for having me.
It was very much a sandbox or a hex scroll.
Tell Joe that. Joe needs to know.
Yeah,
that.
it was very random tonight, right? We had these random encounters.
I'm sorry, I infected with the random party generator.